diagnosed with cancer post-shot. But I want to say something because it's always kind of touchy for me, even with people that I don't necessarily agree with, to kind of really be speaking about them and what they did when they were here once they've actually transitioned. I do believe that there should be some sort of time of grace, right? To just let that spirit sort of, do what it needs to do to transition to the other side. But I also, not but, I'm going to put a period on that. With that being said, the concept of a turbo cancer, which is hashtag, excuse me, on this particular video of him telling people to go out and get a shot. That's another thing. You actively were engaged in leading people in a direction that was very detrimental to their own well-being. That's one of the reasons why I'm showing this, because we have to get in front of these things. We have to, like, in terms of the state of awareness, the consciousness, mass cancer happening all around us, and we think it's just the regular cancer that's been happening all this time. No, there is a real thing called turbo cancer. There are new, very extreme and rare variations of cancer that are like popping up all over the place, even with young children. And we're not making the correlation. And it's happened to, I know multiple people who I either know directly or indirectly, who have now been diagnosed, or cancer that was in remission has all of a sudden came back in the most ferocious way ever. So that's why I'm talking about this. We have to really be paying attention to what's happening in our bodies, the what's happening in the collective consciousness in terms of the health and well-being. This is a serious situation, not fear. I didn't say we need to be afraid. We need to be mindful and conscientious. This is the billionaire list of 2024 for Forbes, for all of the Black Americans, Black people, Black celebrities on that list. Michael Jordan having a net worth of 3.2 billion. Oprah Winfrey having a net worth of 2.8 billion. And I'm highlighting these people for a reason, because I believe, and it's already been revealed, that they're going to play a very major role in terms of the Pharaoh's magician sentiment, keeping people, steering people in a certain direction, or entertaining people in the meantime, or like Oprah in the position she played in Lahaina, in Maui. They played her so thoroughly, her and Dwayne Johnson. Talk about a humiliation ritual. You're supposed to be the queen of, spirituality and metaphysics, and, sort of helping lead people to a happier version of their lives or themselves. And you have to go out there where you own hundreds and hundreds of acres of land, and people are suffering and struggling and barely making ends meet. And you can't even open your land up to them. Probably still buying more to this day. I would imagine that she's capitalizing in a great way off the fact that they're not allowing those people to go back and immediately rebuild their homes. Jay-Z, we've already seen the role that he's been playing post 2020, meeting up with the mayor, with the governor of New York, pushing the shot, having Rockefeller events, job fairs and whatnot, where 12 and up mandated shots. Yes, that absolutely is a reflection of him. He's playing his position. Tyler Perry, net worth 1.4 billion. Rihanna, net worth 1.4 billion. And post Kanye, our whole concept of what being a billionaire means should be different. Because what does that actually even mean? Tiger Woods, 1.3 billion. LeBron James, 1.2 billion. He's definitely played his role, particularly with what happened in terms of his son playing for USC, having a heart attack, et cetera, et cetera. The whole, how they juxtaposed him, used him to neutralize the Kyrie Irving energy. And of course, Urban Magic Johnson.
The problem with the Trump situation is, regardless of what happens, it still looks like a Black billionaire took the fall.
Sean Diddy Combs' empire is on fragile ground.
And that's the message that people that don't look at the details may only hear. Can't be billionaires, Because the minute they do, it's because they did some fucking thing, and we have the ability to pull the plug on. So perception-wise, this is the second billionaire that's been de-billionaire. You know what I mean? And that's a message. Overnight too. Yeah, overnight. That's like saying, you could be a billionaire today, and you can be broke for tomorrow.
Adidas announced it has cut ties with Kanye West and the Yeezy brand. But more upsetting to him, Forbes now says he's not a billionaire anymore.
Okay, so we did just go from ritual sacrifices in terms of bringing red cows from America, which I also think is symbolic of the real, true, people of God, quote unquote, children of Israel, so to speak, having to bring them there and those cows from here, this land, and sacrifice them there so that you can even purge yourself and qualify to step foot on the land, to step foot in the temple. Something very symbolic about that. But so those sacrificial rituals, and then here we have humiliation rituals happening nonstop. You see Dame Dash referencing the two billionaire Diddy versus Kanye, right? And again, I'm sharing this list because these people are key players, and they're going to continue to be key players as this agenda continues to unveil itself. And as I've been saying post 2020, that everybody directly and indirectly who is working for Satan or playing that position is going to get put on blast. Diddy becomes a billionaire. Now this is October 28th, 2022. So this is at the height of Kanye being in the fire. Diddy becomes a billionaire, replaces Kanye on list of 2022's wealthiest hip hop artists as West's net worth drops. Diddy has replaced Kanye West on the list of 22 wealthiest hip hop artists following the latter's continued embrace of anti-Semitic conspiracies. Now, I believe I read this article in one of our previous episodes. If Diddy's a billionaire, why do you need to be stressing? What's the point of continuously stressing that Kanye is not? Why is the whole article, it's like, half Diddy, half Kanye, just in terms of continuing to reference him? Because they move them around like pieces on a board. Oh, this Negro's out of line. Move him out the way quickly, overnight, and move another one in his place. According to a new report from former Forbes editor Zach O'Malley. Now, remember, it was all good just a week ago. It was all good just a year and a half ago. Diddy was on top of the world. According to a new report from former Forbes editor Zach O'Malley, Jay-Z has stuck with his spot as the wealthiest hip-hop artist in North America with a net worth of $1.5 billion. Remember, this is 2022. Earlier this year, Ye was in second place on the list of hip-hop highest earners with $250 million in earnings for 2021. But after his deal with Adidas came to an abrupt end, on account of his anti-Semitic comments, he slipped to third place in terms of net worth. He was recently worth $2 billion at one point this year. Now Diddy has the second place spot after trailing behind Ye in the past. Diddy is hip hop's third billionaire with a net worth of $1 billion. His rock partnership with Diageo is said to account for the bulk of his wealth, but other assets such as Revolt and De Leon Tequila have certainly helped. Last year he made $90 million.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I got stopped by the cops and everything. I got stopped by the cops yesterday. You're gonna see it's gonna hit TMZ real soon. Like, they thought I was trafficking. Yeah, they thought I was trafficking fentanyl, and they thought I had a gun in my car. So they stopped me and everything. All the helicopters in LA. They was outside, yo. I was freaking out. Like, they had me outside for like 3 hours. They had me getting butt naked outside, yo. Like, shit was crazy. It was that as a movie and whatever. But like, you already know, like, I'm about to sue the LAPD. Like, you already know, like, they got me fucked up for doing that. So I had like a bad day yesterday because, like, and I had told them, like, yo, I'm Cardi B. Like, do I look like I gotta sell some shit? Like, why would I do that? Like, why? I would never do no shit like that. Like, and they didn't believe me. Like, it was like some white cops or something. Like, they didn't know who I was. So, like, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, they was really tough on me and everything. They said that, like, somebody gave them a clue. I really feel like it was one of my ops and shit. Like, they're really trying to ruin my life type shit. Like, y'all don't even fucking know. Like, I've been going through a lot lately, but like for somebody to do that shit, like tip the LAPD, some shit like that, then they like, yo, like the helicopters was outside. It was a fucking movie, man.
Now, people are saying that she was just playing. That you know, as I graced through this, looking back at it, because this happened a couple of weeks ago at this point, or at least a week ago at this point. So I looked to see if she had retracted this story, and I did not see anything to that end. And even if she was playing, why is this something to play about? Like, you got all that money, you got all that fame, that success. Why are you playing these type of games? Are you that bored in your life? And then TMZ and all these other, the LAPD issued an official statement, like, who? So if it's real, and you know, the humiliation ritual aspect, who knows, maybe they really did something to her, MK Ultra, etc. All of those things are highly applicable in this situation. But then if they didn't, and you're lying and playing these type of games while simultaneously being represented in very obvious occult imagery, mimicking the Baphomet, at the same time that you're coming forward and making these kind of crazy statements, at the same time that we've heard you talk about not wanting to tap into demonic energy when you do certain type of songs, and here you are still doing those type of songs. So this whole segment, when I'm talking about celebrity culture, and you know, I think it was Zbigniew Brzezinski that said that if you control 1 million, one person that controls 1 million people, if you control one person that controls 1 million people, you don't have to kill them. You just control them, right? And so celebrities are playing a very, 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 very large role in everything that's unfolding right now. Now, you'll recall in one of our previous headline news, I was talking about Diddy and the whole Joker costume thing that he did. It was very, very strange and creepy to me. I showed several videos where I saw there was a Diddy, but I wasn't sure if it was Diddy. It was very, so there's been very, very strange things happening around him, including being the what was it, the Grammys, I think it was, where he was nominated or celebrated recently, which that whole production was in red. I forgot to get the images of that, but these people are being used in word, thought, deed, and action to keep the collective consciousness, particularly Black people in America, locked in a lust-based, nigga-based frequency, so that we're tuned all the way into the illusion, tuned all the way into the script, the program, the movie, the play, etc., and not tuned into ourselves, which is where all of the power is.
And that's why motion picture stars are called movie stars, because in the Bible, stars were referred to as lesser illuminaries. So these lesser illuminaries are working for the big Illuminati. So the big Illuminati are using the lesser Illuminati. The lesser illuminaries are just stars.
We have pictures with the president with his hand stretched out, holding a red rose.
But I have about 15 major color pictures of communist leaders throughout the world holding a red rose in their hand. And these are from newspapers and magazines. I began to pick up on this because someone alerted me to it, that the symbol of the red rose implies not only socialism and communism, but a secret society operating behind socialism and communism that uses a red rose.
This way out Willie holding the rose. We find Khrushchev. We find
all the communist leaders,
all the communist leaders, and then we find the president of the United States over in his early years leading anti-American demonstrations in the Soviet Union.
Well, I know, but I'm saying that it's not enough to say these things. You really must show the pictures so that people will see that what we're talking about here are symbols and emblems.
Well, even Hitler used red and black, didn't he?
Symbols and emblems. right? And you see how red keeps coming up in these different ways, right? Um, lesser illuminaries. Lesser illuminaries.
This particular Black secret society that we'll talk about today is the first of the Black Greek societies, started in 1904. And that word that you said, Boule, is actually an acronym. It's a Sigma Pi Phi. Sigma Pi Phi, 1904 in Philadelphia. And for most of our people, we are not prepped to the responsibility of secret society in the American society. And this founding constitution, this illegal criminal enterprise, was a Masonic affair. And a Masonry is a form of secret society. There are other well-known secret societies like Skull and Bones at Yale, of which this corrupt president and his father were members of. And it is that society that the Black society modeled itself after. So when they wrote their first history book, The History of Sigma Pi Phi, by a very noted Black author, university president Charles Wesley, who wrote the history book for the Elks, the Prince Hall Masons, National Council of Negro Women, Alpha Phi Alpha, and Sigma Pi Phi. And as a result, in there, in page 28 of its first history book, it noted that it wanted to be like Skull and Bones at Yale. It was right here in Los Angeles at the Good Life on a Friday night. If you remember this time, the NAACP had a convention here, and LeGrand Klieg and Marla Gibbs were accused of making inflammatory statements.
Working with Dr. Graham's book, The Mannequin Leitmotif.
Yes, that weekend, the Boule was meeting here, July of 1990. They were having their twice every other year convention, biannual. And it was a front page article in the LA Times by Karen Grigsby Gates, who denoted that these elite Black men were meeting in Los Angeles at this time. That was the first. I remember sending someone to the car to bring it in, and we read it from the stage of the Boule on July 18th, the day the story appeared, front page LA Times. And I thought it was unusual that the LA Times knew of this society, and I didn't know of them. Now, for our audience to understand, I'm starting off trying to explain to Black people the impact of international policy groups like the Trilateral Commission, the Council on Foreign Relations, when the bankers began to take over the American cities in the 70s, New York 75, Cleveland 77, Chicago 79, and here in California, they used Proposition 13 to suck up the surplus out the budget, and bankers began to take over from municipalities the governing of the cities. And as I was scratching, I could not figure out how was there such Black complicity in this centralization of worldwide power, the New World Order. It's on the dollar bill, pyramid by white men who never built one, never saw one, but they emulated this symbol. And now comes a series of societies, and now comes forth this Black one in 1904. As we began to read deeper, it had another analogy in the story to Skull and Bones. It wasn't until we got the history book that the analogy that looked happenstantial in the story in the LA Times was actually deeper in the actual history book, where they drew attention to Skull and Bones. It denoted that W.E.B. Du Bois was a member, and it began to describe people, influential people in the present day society, and historically, our university, historically Black college presidents are primarily coming out of this advisors to the king. And that word, that Boule word, can be looked up in a encyclopedia. Well, now people don't use them, they use internet. And that's a dangerous thing, a dangerous dependency. But Boule, B-O-U-L-E, the Greek version. There's a French version that's a coming together, a conclave, the AKA called their convention, the Boule. But the Greek word is what we're looking for, the advisors to the king. The lower house of the Greek parliament is called Boule. And if you know the American congressional system, Senate, 6 years, more power, authority, only 100. 2 per state. Congress, 435, have to run every 2 years. Your lower house has less power and authority. So it appears as if in finding the Boule that within it was a subordination to something else. And in its history book, it drew attention. Here's a logo. And this is a their logo is a Grecian sphinx. It's an animal. And this Grecian sphinx is similar to a griffin or a gargot. Kind of ironically, the Boule had their convention in Los Angeles in 1941. And where else? Griffin Park. And this logo, this symbol is a guardian animal. This would be similar to a Rottweiler or a dog or a German Shepherd. They tend to protect something higher than itself.
So peace to the legendary King Steve Coakley, and his reference to the Boule and his sort of explanation was important because, you know, going back to the previous, what Jordan Maxwell called the lesser illuminaries, there are quote unquote lesser illuminaries that are in the hip hop world, in the industry, that look like us, but that are representing a higher agenda. And so now when that higher agenda is being made manifest right in front of our eyes, of course, the lesser illuminaries are going to be front and center to do what Jay-Z is doing in terms of, you know, keeping people focused in a different direction than what they should be, as well as, you know, the whole shot element, right? And playing his position as far as that's concerned. And then you have the humiliation aspect of all this stuff that they're bringing forward on Diddy, whether they're charging him, the lawsuits. You think these people haven't known this whole entire time? Of course they have. So I wanted to start with the Boule because this gentleman, Jonathan Odie, which I'm going to post a link to watch a larger, well, I'm going to play a separate clip about him after this slide, but